Bolmel can broker peace. Peace is not necessarily from the external forces, even those inside. And I think he was talking about it the other day, if I could recall. He said that even Thomas Cirillo is ready to engage. And after that, Ismail Wise went to Rome to meet Thomas. I don't know whether it was by him or not. So Bolmel can broker peace with anybody as long as it will contribute positively to the good of the country. That is exactly the dynamic of a leader. A leader should not only focus on one thing. He has to be multi-dimensional. He can do one thing at the economic level, another thing at the agricultural level, which will also contribute to food security. He can stabilize the country by engaging with all the contrary voices and bringing them on board. South Sudan is not for individuals. If somebody has offended the state or the citizen, for example, the mass killing in Naser, whether of the White Army or the Army, the SSPDF, it's a crime. And if somebody is behind it, it should be handled the legal way. His arrest is a turning point. It is not going to defend the issues. It is his freedom that actually caused problems more for the country. Because the country would experience tribal conflict. Riek becomes the central man in mobilization of the White Army. The White Army is army of Riek Machar. Okay?
Yes.
If you equate it with the other armed civilians elsewhere, that is not true. That is not true. The other armed civilians have light machine guns. They don't wield power that the White Army has. There is necessity for a different approach because re-engagement with Dr. Riek is acceptable. Dialogue brings peace. But what type of peace? Because of late, the peace that is signed between Kir and Riek is only for the elites, and specifically on the side of Riek for his family. Okay? For example, is the Vice President Angelina is a minister, and is his wife, plus now a number of loyalists that are closer inside the circle. If Riek Machar agreement was for all, there would have been impact on the people of Lawnware, there would have been impact on people of Nasir and other areas of the Republic of South Sudan. But what has happened is to reward the elites and keep the government for an extended period. And people are suffering in the localities. If there is a way a solution would be made without engaging Riek and the country can progress, so be it. Per now, because we have already had a bad relationship, we have to write the internal issues. One is good governance. The other one is promotion of human rights. The other one is rule of law, enforcement. The other one is a good security. By doing so, U.S. will have no case against us. After all, U.S. has not stated clearly that we need the resources of South Sudan and we have condition A, condition B that South Sudan must fulfill.
So you think those are the
concrete
steps? That
yes, South Sudan has to take those critical steps to actually attract not only the U.S. but other actors at the level of the international community. Number two, acting like we don't want U.S. is irresponsible because U.S. participated in what we are today. We agree with that in totality.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Point, the home of scholars. At the Scholars Hub is all about information, transformation, and entertainment. I am your host, Admiral Carl Gordon. And on the couch tonight, we have Dr. Emmanuel Dhurgon.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Dr. John, once again, welcome to The Point. And we meet at a very critical moment in our country's history. A time marked by deep internal challenges and international scrutiny. So, Dr. Sande, looking at the history from 1991, that is the Naser Declaration, to the 2013 and 2016 conflicts. So, do you believe that Dr. Riek Machar actions have caused progress or regression for South Sudan since the liberation days? And can he still generally work with our president, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, in a collegial leadership agreement where he exerts some veto power?
For the question that you have raised and the historical background that you have given, I can say in the first part that uh, the actions or inactions of Dr. Riek Machar from 1991 to 2013 conflict and again 2016 are both a cause of a setback and also a progress. But the biggest part is that the regress has been greater than the progress itself. While Dr. Riek has been exuding wisdom and a lot of brilliant ideas, the implementation aspect is usually violent, and that has made things hard for the Republic of South Sudan. For example, in 1991, the Sudan's People Liberation Army movement was progressing so well, with the town after the other being captured by the gallant forces belonging to the SPLA. But with the Naser split, the forces have to be redirected for internal fighting, while the enemy has to take over the country. The advent of Sebal Hubur, it was the emboldenment created by the backwardness that resulted from the Nasser split. So Dr. Riek in 1991 has derailed the country from progress because of his ideas that he wants to impose violently. Imposing ideas violently is usually a setback. It's not a progress. That one was later on forgone. Dr. John Garang and others, plus himself, Riek Machar, recalled their wisdom, and they ended up with the Nairobi Agreement for the reunification of the factions of the SPLM, SPLA, under the then president of Kenya, Daniel Trotich Arap Moi. So they came back as citizens of South Sudan, sons of the same country, to fight jointly. And after the failure of Khartoum Peace Agreement, of course, that he signed, and he was working there as the chair of coordinating council for southern states. But eventually, we dragged on, forgiving whatever that has happened, including the massacre and all the atrocities that were committed without any single question being raised about them. Because we have a greater cause ahead. We need a country of our own. Now, after the agreement, that is the CPA, Riek Machar ascended to the same position where he was before. And eventually, the peace was signed. And at the pace of implementation, we lost our leader, Dr. John Garang de Mabior, through that fateful incident that happened between South Sudan and Uganda. And again, it was to raise the same voice, the voice of internal fighting. But it was suppressed at the genesis. And so Salva Kiir, the current president, was elevated based on the hierarchy of the movement. Salva did not shy away from working with Riek. We have to acknowledge that. They work as his deputy at that level. And they continued from 2005 up to 2010. And if we can recall, President Salva was the first vice president in the national government, the one they call transitional government of the national unity, that was brought about by the CPA. So he had two hats. He was the president of the government of Southern Sudan and also doubling as the vice president in Sudan. So the responsibilities were many, and he opted through brotherhood to relinquish most of his responsibilities to Dr. Riek Machar. So while Dr. Riek Machar was his vice president in the south, he was actually a de facto president, because all the foreign missions and the oversight responsibilities were given to him. He was the one to do that job. Until 2010, when he became the running mate of Salva, and they remained as leaders of South Sudan jointly at that top level, they developed their internal divisions, especially at the level of the SPLM. And things did not work so well, and leading to all the events that you know, the sacking of Dr. Riek, the dissolution of the government, and all the things that happened. Again, fashion was not taken. Dr. Riek again accepted war or created war. Nobody can pinpoint it, because they are opposed to each other in accepting that a coup was done or a coup was not done. And the war of 2013 incinerated the country. It destroyed the country further. And the current predicament, the current situation the country is in, is aftermath of that war. And it was senseless. 2016, after the peace agreement, Riek Machar wanted to be in the Republic of South Sudan with a parallel army that was issuing vetoes here and there. And you know very well, they had to fight at the State House, something that has not happened before in many African countries.
Yes.
And again, it caused a setback for the country. All in all, the regional leaders and the international community opted to tell South Sudanese to maintain the status quo by accepting that the agreement has to be revitalized and Riek has to be brought back to the country. Michael McQueen has actually expressed his view, and he was perceived as a radicalist, which I don't agree with. He was actually reading from the body language and the sentiments of the leaders. Riek has his own sentiments. President Salva has his own sentiment. And McQueen, as the spokesperson of the government, made it clear that these people will not work together because of the resentment that is involved. While the international community opted to force things on their throat, now they work together. From the 2018, the agreement was only meant to last in 36 months, but it has extended to now. Why is it not extending? Because the agreement to Salva is so hard to implement. First, it downplays his authority as a leader of the country, and Salva has a claim that he was elected in 2010, which is right, and the next election could have been 2015, and it was not challenged through democratic means, only through war, and so people have to sign an agreement. So the agreement undermines the authority of Salva, and it also gaps the development, because everything has to be channeled to the integration of forces and to keeping the bloated government afloat. For example, this recent agreement is so bad in so many ways. From its genesis, rewarding the foreign leaders with the resources, to its implementation with 5 vice presidents. Okay? Maintaining that from 2018 to now cannot only give Salva a headache, even somebody else will have headache, and he can act in a certain way. Now the conflict, after they have seen the agreement was re-extended again, now for the second time or the third time, because the first extension was the first 100 days, and then the other extension and the other extension and this extension, the IO element through the White Army wanted to strengthen their position by creating skirmishes here and there. These skirmishes eventually led to the anger on the other side, and they were made worse by the incident that led to the death of Majur. So the activities of Dr. Riek Machar, to pinpoint the question, have created more setback than the good to our country.
What good has you have dwelled more on his setbacks? What good do you think?
The good is that Riek Machar is ideologue. And if you have gone out there and expressed a certain view, and it is bought by others, for example, he was among the first. He is not the first, because in 1950 and other eventualities like 1972 agreement, there were voices calling for self-determination of the South. But now he prides himself that he is the father of the self-determination of the country. More so, he's a good mobilizer. He has brought on board the youth belonging to the Nuer ethnicity into the movement, and even from other areas. And they put this together with the other SPLA forces. And you cannot take away a credit of good fighting from Nuer. They actually participate in the liberation struggle, despite the thorny path that the country has gone through at the liberation days and now. So Riek Machar has contributed significantly by bringing warriors that fight for our liberty. That one is a positive.
You've talked of the revitalized peace agreement. From the same couch that you're seated right here, in the last interview we had, Sergeant Agil Riek Machar was here, and he emphasized that the the Reviker's Arkis remains as the only viable path forward, and he has also advocated for the release of Dr. Riek Machar to allow dialogue. So, do you agree that re-engaging Dr. Riek is the solution South Sudan urgently needs, or do you think a different approach is now necessary?
There is necessity for a different approach because re-engagement with Dr. Riek is acceptable. Dialogue brings peace. But what type of peace? Because of late, the peace that is signed between Kir and Riek is only for the elites, and specifically on the side of Riek for his family. Okay? For example, is the Vice President Angelina is a minister and is his wife, plus now a number of loyalists that are closer inside the circle. If Riek Machar agreement was for all, there would have been impact on the people of Lawnware, there would have been impact on people of Naser and other areas of the Republic of South Sudan. But what has happened is to reward the elites and keep the government for an extended period. And people are suffering in the localities. If there is a way a solution would be made without engaging Riek and the country can progress, so be it.
So, as a political analyst and also as a commentator, so what kind of approach do you think that can suffice now?
If Riek is involved in the recent incidences, and the government of the Republic of South Sudan has enough evidence,
yes,
and a good case, Riek should face the law. And you know, the national dialogue has recommended for the exit of Salva and Riek, but the exit does not come once for two people. Okay? And you cannot sit there and say you will remove them. It is them to crush each other. Okay?
You're talking of crushing each other. Like following the Naser incident, which happened in March, and the tragic loss of General Major Dak, what is your assessment to the root cause behind this escalation?
I don't agree with the idea that White Army is independently operating without being backed by the SPLM-IO, whether at the level of Riek or any other intermediate level. I understand Nuer language. By the time late Torgile was speaking, he was expressing sentiments belonging to the SPLM-IO. He was calling for a unified force. And unified force is a political tool. The crisis in Naser were only competing opinions of political forces channeled down to the local communities to champion them for them. All in all, there was leadership kind of disagreement at the level of the nation, and it has to be taken at the lower level to trigger a conflict, which would now call for dialogue. These people want dialogue to create more peace agreements that do not benefit the citizen.
All right. You've also spoken on the SPLM-IO leadership intervention and helping the White Army, that they did not act independently. The government also put this blame on Dr. Riek that he attributed to, and they believe that he was the one who was funding this alongside his other ministers that are under detention right now. So do you believe that his arrest marks a turning point for South Sudan political future, or will it deepen further the divisions within the country?
Well, South Sudan is not for individuals. If somebody has offended the state or the citizen, for example, the mass killing in Naser, whether of the White Army or the Army, the SSPDF, it's a crime. And if somebody is behind it, it should be handled the legal way. His arrest is a turning point. It is not going to defend the issues. It is his freedom that actually caused problems more for the country. Because the country would experience tribal conflict. Riek becomes the central man in mobilization of the White Army. The White Army is army of Riek Machar. Okay?
Yes.
If you equate it with the other armed civilians elsewhere, that is not true. That is not true. The other armed civilians have light machine guns. They don't wield power that the White Army has. Okay? And it is the White Army integration into the National Army that caused this conflict. Okay? So, arrest of Riek Machar has to have a legal basis. It should not just be arbitrary and sought for in a right manner. Because Riek Machar is a political figure, if his case is handled haphazardly, it can cause more issues to the country. But if handled well, there is nobody above the law.
Talking of Naser and the White Army, you've seen that SSPDFs, like, it has made a swift military gains in Ulang, Naser, and some in its surrounding areas. So how has the power dynamic shifted on the ground and nationally?
Well, on the ground, it seems like the SSPDF have a morale. They have a morale because these are gains on the side of the government. However, what one can tell them is that after the capturing of Naser and the areas around it, and including Ulang, they must not commit atrocities because those are citizens of South Sudan, and the elements of White Army, unless they have to show the might of arms as they have been doing, nobody should meld into destroying the citizens because the citizens are just locally living. But these men will always come and attack. For example, you could have heard the voice of Ian Matthew. Ian Matthew was with us here. He talked that this issue of Naser has become real war and we are going to fight it vigorously from now onwards, and we are advancing to Malakal. This White Army is not spontaneous. There is an element of political inclination associated with it. And if we are to handle the issues of the country properly, the South Sudan Army has a monopoly of violence as its mandate. And the White Army should not continue with atrocities. They have to lay down arms, okay, or they will be pursued. But the army has to be very merciful to the citizen, the local citizen, because the local citizens are innocent. The civilians, like women and children, and the elderly, they don't have contribution to this. But otherwise, there is a political angle to this conflict. White Army is not operating as a civilian force. Which civilian force attacked the national army? To do what with that attack? To gain what? After capturing Naser, it was human destruction. What did they gain from that? They cannot even confer security to the people of Naser.
Correct.
In their own way, they can cause atrocities.
You've talked of some political influence on it. So, Dr. Sunday, there is a growing speculation that the current VP for Economic Cluster, that is Dr. Benjamin Bol-Mel's rising influence and ascension into the vice presidency has impacted the current political dynamics. In your view, is his emergence a stabilizing force or part of the reason behind the unfolding tensions?
I don't see a country that is governed by a vice president. There is a president of the Republic of South Sudan. And shifting blame to Bol-Mel for that reason is not what I can comprehend most. Because a vice president does not order, for wars. That one is the work of commander-in-chief and the parliament.
Yeah.
Okay? Second to this, the ascension of Bol-Mel has its own impact on the nation.
Yes.
For example, today Wani is not in the political equation at the level of vice presidency. Could the country have missed his wisdom? Nobody knows. Has Bol improved on the role Wani was playing? We have not felt it yet. As a matter of truth, the atrocities that are happening in the country, if President Salva has allowed Benjamin Bol-Mel to act on his behalf without the knowledge of the public, that is what I cannot say. But solely they are at that level. They are at the level of the commander-in-chief and at the level of the army itself. And the security sector is not run by Bol-Mel. Unless otherwise there is something we are not told about. As a matter of truth, his ascension is like any other ascension at the level of politics. And it could have caused its own dynamics that we know, like the restructuring of the security sector and the economic cluster functions that have been now shifted from what they were before to now. Like we have been hearing positively that they are collecting more revenue. I don't know how. And also the salaries are ongoing. So if there is a contribution it would have been making, it could be a positive one. Yeah, and not the conflict one. Because I have not seen Bol-Mel except his speech during the death of Majordak. And I don't also think he has the authority to authorize for war That is not his constitutional mandate.
So according to you, think that his ascension is a coincidence to and bad timing during this current
It's a
crisis of
mixture.
South Sudan?
It's a mixture. It could have created or it could have not. Only that he ascended at a time when crises were to pop up. Yeah.
So right here, this coach, Riek Machar also suggested that Dr. Benjamin Bolmel, rather than engaging in conflict, should champion for peace efforts to improve both countries' situation and his own international standing, including the possible lifting of sanctions. So, in your view, is the VP positioned to become a true peace broker for South Sudan at this critical moment?
Well, being a vice president means being a statesman. You can cut across. It's not necessarily that you cling to the economy. The economic reasons or issues can be handled by the minister and the other related economic institutions. Bolmel can broker peace. Peace is not necessarily from the external forces, even those inside. And I think he was talking about it the other day, if I could recall. He said that even Thomas Cirillo is ready to engage. And after that, Ismail Wise went to Rome to meet Thomas. I don't know whether it was by him or not. So Bolmel can broker peace with anybody as long as it will contribute positively to the good of the country. That is exactly the dynamic of a leader. A leader should not only focus on one thing. He has to be multidimensional. He can do one thing at the economic level, another thing at the agricultural level, which will also contribute to food security. He can stabilize the country by engaging with all the contrary voices and bringing them on board.
Correct.
Combat is a last resort, as we always say. You don't fight before you reason. Fighting means you have failed to achieve a goal through reasoning. As that, I don't also see him as warmonger, because I have never seen him going to war. But eventually, he's a national leader. He shouldered the blame because he runs the docket that has influence over the affairs of the country. So he can crisscross. He can move right and left and center, directing for what will be good at the level of the country. And engaging in peace process is not necessarily Riek Machar. There are other actors outside the country, including the likes of Ian Matthew. Who knows, it could not even be Riek causing the Naser issue. And it could be actors like Ian, who is the son of Naser and who has a political agenda that could have triggered that. So engagement with people like what he did with the Lawnware, as I have seen through a video that his representative were speaking to the community leaders, that is engagement, and it is how peace is brokered. There is no small peace. What we need is harmony. And if Bol can volunteer to go that path, he can still help his country by doing so.
So, it's this growing dissenter. You've seen Honorable Stephen Parkwall has replaced, allegedly replaced Dr. Riek as the chairman of the SPLM-IO. Following Honorable Makwendweth's statement about Dr. Machar's removal as first vice president and potential restructuring of the SPLM-IO, do you think that Parkwall is a suitable replacement? And given the dynamics within the organization, do you believe it will be accepted by the majority of its members? You could see what happened in the church situation.
Well, Parkwall, through the meeting in Palm Africa, if I can recall, has ascended as the acting chair of the SPLM-IO after the deputy chair fled the country and the chairman in prison. And other senior members like Angelina are not ready to engage at that level. So any power vacuum, when left, can lead to a collapse of an organization. By the decision of the members that were present to elevate him, it is a good thing to fill the power vacuum. And he has made it clear through a certain interview that he is only temporarily occupying the position. Should Riek Machar be released, he will come and take over.
Will he be accepted by the majority?
The majority have no choice. First of all, they are dealing with the government. And I have mentioned in my article that we have to be realistic. Realism is actually real. Okay? The eventualities are that Riek Machar has been exerting veto power on Salpa. And it has come a point that they can no longer work together. And it has come a point that they decipher the actions of Riek, and they found that he is criminally culpable, leading to his arrest. That is the allegation. Okay? Now, it is to look for a new face. Oyet is on run. How does he run the SPLM-IO as a peace partner when he is not inside the country? That is a question. So, Parkwall has to be accepted. But that is the eventuality. He is the existing member of the SPLM-IO. And you cannot just allow the agreement to collapse because a certain leader is seen like is almighty. That thing does not work. Par should be accepted. And the members of the SPLM-IO, whether now or later, if they think they need peace for their country, will still converge at the level of Par and continue implementing the agreement until the extension period is over. When Riek is acquitted and he wants to run for the elections of the country, it's good for him. He can do that one democratically. He has every right to lead the country if he is accepted by the citizens of the Republic of South Sudan. But Par has also a mandate. He has to work so hard so that he can be accepted. He has to use his experience. He has been with Riek. What is it that Riek was doing to make people stand behind him? He can do the same. All in all, there is this idea of calling yourself a tribal kingpin. A tribal kingpin is what is destroying our country. The leaders have to use the tribes to gain what they want. And at that level, no development, no anything. And when they don't agree, they use the tribes again to kill the citizens that are innocent. All in all, a replacement for Riek Machar is not a bad thing at the level of the IO. And it is the IO to direct itself the right way. Should they fail to do that and Kir remain solely as the leader without acknowledging the presence of IO, they should not blame him again.
As a political analyst, we've seen our international relations taking a bit of a twist, and it's watery at the moment. And you could see the U.S. Suspension of visas for South Sudanese citizens, which signals growing international frustration. And how should the government respond to avoid further diplomatic isolation? As you can see, I think our government has tried by sending an envoy to the United States. So,
up to now, we have not seen a defined foreign policy of the Republic of South Sudan, whether on websites or through mere communications. It could be there, but we have not seen it. With every international relation, there has to be a certain consideration. First of all, what is the interest of U.S.? I have read thoroughly on a number of things. There are several papers that were authored. But South Sudan was necessarily a creation of the United States of America. And United States of America has significantly spent the taxpayers' money on the case of South Sudan until it attains independence. And United States of America has never heard ulterior motives on South Sudan. But did South Sudan sit back and ask itself, this kind person that propped me up at the time of difficulty, what is exactly the interest?
Yes.
If South Sudan has asked that interest, they could have heard it from the USA. Could it be the strategic position? So the US has a certain interest that could be military or what? Or does US have interest in the exploitation of the South Sudan resources? Or does it have interest in contributing to the development? Or does it have interest in the trade aspect? All those could have been seen by the leadership and then allow US as a good partner, like it has partnered with other countries to take part in the affairs of South Sudan at the level of bilateral relations. That could have been a good thing. But per now, because we have already had a bad relationship, we have to write the internal issues. One is good governance. The other one is promotion of human rights. The other one is rule of law, enforcement. The other one is a good security. By doing so, U.S. will have no case against us. After all, U.S. has not stated clearly that we need the resources of South Sudan, and we have condition A, condition B that South Sudan must fulfill.
So you think those are the
concrete
steps? That
yes, South Sudan has to take those critical steps to actually attract not only the U.S. but other actors at the level of the international community. Number two, acting like we don't want U.S. is irresponsible, because U.S. participated in what we are today. We agree with that in totality. So China is a good partner, and Salva Kiir could have opened other corridors. For example, in the oil industry of the Republic of South Sudan, it is run by the Chinese, okay, and Malaysian at some point. But Kiir was not the one who invited China to work in the oil industry of the Republic of South Sudan. We inherit this. It was the Sudan government that has good relationship with China that asked China to explore the oil in the Republic of South Sudan with a contract extending over 30 years. And we have to inherit this. And if U.S. is punishing the government of South Sudan because of their relation with China, then the U.S. government is not sincere. The government of the Republic of South Sudan has inherited 30 years contracts. If they were to chase away Chinese, let them bring money. Let the U.S. bring money so that we pay off the contract and the China could go as the U.S. takeover. But also the government of South Sudan should be proactive. It's not a must that you chase away China. China is also a partner. We have so many oil wells. Okay? We have also other minerals. Can we allow U.S. to explore them in the other parts of the country and existing Chinese on the other part? This idea of going to U.S. and if you are mistreated, you run to the east, for example, to Russia, is not a good making. You'll have a friend that once probe you up, and that friend you cannot hate because of certain eventualities that happen in the middle. All in all, South Sudan can redeem itself by sitting down and dialoguing with the United States of America, the European Union, and other vital countries. It is a matter of interest. Where does interest of U.S. lie? Where does interest of South Sudan lie? We can even ask U.S. to develop our military so that they take able-bodied, train them the best way. Because we are strategically in the center and we will be attacked, right or left. Even our lands have already been encroached on. Does that need work or not? It needs our work, isn't it? And it requires support from a superpower. We cannot afford to lose U.S.
So as we are coming to an end of this episode, so we want to take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Sande, for your invaluable insights on this platform. I think voices like you, what lead the country forward in a direction of resilience, and also shaping the narrative and rewriting the history of our country. So we really appreciate you for taking your time again, sitting here as a friend of the scholars on this platform, and also as a political commentator and analyst here. So we look forward for a continued dialogue where we engage in shaping our country towards a better and direction for the country. So we thank you very much for attending here. The pleasure has been mine.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So scholars, ladies and gentlemen, I think our guest has done us justice tonight by his inputs, and I hope you make your contributions by in the comment section, like what you've done previously, and we'll together shape our country to greater heights. It has been a pleasure. I've been your host, Admiral Carl Gordon. See you next time.